My friend, you already have what you're chasing. You simply don't see it yet. You think wealth is ahead of you, somewhere past the next deal, the next raise, the next little victory on a glowing screen. But true wealth, the kind that no hand can take away, has been sitting quietly beside you all along. Don't look surprised. Yes, I'm speaking to you, the one who scrolls through endless comparisons, measuring your worth by the light of other people's lives. Pause for a moment. Let me tell you something that only silence can reveal. The man who chases gold will never catch peace, but the one who learns to stop running finds that peace has been chasing him all along. Stay with me, because later in this talk, I will show you what Seneca discovered about wealth that made emperors jealous of a philosopher. But first, we must strip away the noise that blinds us. Tell me, what is money to you? A measure of safety? A sign of success? Or is it the chain that drags you through sleepless nights? You say you work for freedom, yet you are not free if your peace ends when the market falls. You say you work for happiness, yet you are not happy if joy must be purchased. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And those words were not poetry, they were medicine. Every day people live as if money were air, something to breathe or die without. But air is abundant, money is not, and so we suffocate ourselves in pursuit of it. I've seen men rise early, not because the dawn inspires them, but because anxiety pulls them from sleep. I've seen women doubt their worth because a number in an account didn't rise fast enough. I've seen people love less, smile less, and miss life itself because their hearts were chained to the next transaction. Tell me, who taught you that wealth was measured in digits? Who told you your worth could be counted? You were not born chasing, you learned it. The world whispered, "You must have more." And you believed it because everyone else did too. But let me speak plainly. If everyone around you is sick, then sickness will look like normal health. And in our time, this sickness is obsession. You see, money is not evil. It is a tool, nothing more. But tools in untrained hands can wound the user. A knife can cut bread or flesh. A coin can build peace or destroy it. The Stoic does not reject wealth. He simply refuses to kneel to it. He holds it lightly as one holds water, grateful for what he has, knowing it cannot be held forever. Think of it this way. Money should serve you, not summon you. But today, most are servants to their own earnings. They obey their salaries more than their conscience. Seneca saw this long before credit cards or social media existed. He saw men in marble halls enslaved by their possessions. He saw rich men dying of hunger for more. He saw poor men rich in tranquility. And he asked himself, who then is truly wealthy? Not the one who has more, but the one who needs less. Not the one who owns much, but the one who owns himself. Listen closely, my friend. There is a kind of poverty that no loss can deepen, and a kind of wealth that no theft can touch, the poverty of greed and the wealth of contentment. Do not think this is weakness. It takes strength to stop running when everyone else is sprinting. It takes courage to say, enough, when the crowd chants, more. Later, I will tell you the story of how Seneca, one of Rome's richest men, learned to live as if he owned nothing. But first, I want you to ask yourself something simple. What would happen if, for one day, you stopped thinking about how to make more, and instead thought about how to need less? Would the sky fall? Would your worth disappear? Or would you finally exhale the breath you've been holding for years? The Stoic path begins not by rejecting the world, but by seeing it clearly. And clarity starts when we stop confusing value with price. A cup of water is priceless when you are dying of thirst, but diamonds mean nothing in a desert. In the same way, the quiet joy of being alive outweighs all the luxury you could ever buy. but you must see it. And most people never do. They live like beggars with gold under their feet. They scroll through pictures of paradise while standing in it. You are richer than you think. Look, your breath still flows. Your heart still beats. You have the power to think, to choose, to love, to learn. What treasure could surpass that? Still, I understand. You live in a time where wealth is worshipped, where comparison is constant, where peace is a product sold in 100 forms. But do you know why Seneca's teachings endure? Because he faced the same illness, different tools, same disease. He lived surrounded by power, status, temptation. He was an advisor to an emperor, one of the richest men in Rome. And yet, in his letters, he wrote about letting go. He wrote of how wealth without wisdom is a burden, how fortune gives and fortune takes, and neither change who you are. He once said, "Money has never yet made anyone rich." Because what we crave is not the coin, but the feeling it promises. Security, respect, control, freedom. But here is the secret. All of those things are internal. They do not come from what you own. They come from what you understand. You can own everything and still feel empty. You can own nothing and still feel whole. So ask yourself, what is the real hunger behind your chase? Is it survival or is it meaning? Because the more you feed a false hunger, the hungrier you become. And the more you feed your inner life with discipline, virtue, and truth, the more peace grows in you like a quiet flame. Don't mistake me for a preacher of poverty. The Stoic does not despise wealth. He simply refuses to confuse it with happiness. He builds, he earns, he uses his resources wisely, but he does not sell his peace for profit. You live in an age where everyone sells something, even their time, their attention, their soul in small pieces. But you, my friend, can live differently. You can earn and yet stay unenslaved. You can build and yet remain still. Seneca called this freedom, the wealth of needing little and the art of wanting wisely. And that is the secret I promised you. But before we unlock it fully, we must confront the lie that lives in your mind, the one that whispers, "I'll be enough when I have more." No, you will be enough when you understand what enough truly means. So let us breathe, slowly, right now. You are alive. You have survived much. And though you may not have everything you desire, you have everything you need to find peace, right here, in this moment. That is where wealth begins. Not in the bank, in the mind. Stay with me, because in the next part, we will go deeper into how Seneca, surrounded by luxury, practiced detachment so profound that he could lose everything and remain unmoved. And I will show you how you can do the same, even while living in this restless, flashing world. But before we continue, if these words have reached you, if they stirred something quiet inside you, then share this message. Let others hear what you are hearing now. Subscribe so you do not lose this conversation when the noise of the world returns. And leave a comment below. Tell me what enough means to you, because wisdom grows when it is shared. Now, take another breath. Part 2 of this lesson begins when you're ready. We have only just begun. Listen closely, my friend. The hardest chains are the ones we do not see. And in this age, those chains are digital, silent, made of endless wanting. We open our phones and the world tells us who is richer, faster, happier. But the Stoic asks, what is happiness that depends on comparison? If you must look at another to measure your joy, then you have already sold it. Seneca once wrote to Lucilius, "Until you make peace with your possessions, you will always be possessed." He was not warning against owning things, he was warning against being owned by them. And today, it is not only gold that owns us, it is attention, it is approval, it is the constant, invisible need to be seen. You earn money to buy what you think will free you, and then spend freedom maintaining what you bought. You chase success so that others may admire you, and in doing so, you become a prisoner to their eyes. The Stoic walks another road. He says, "Let me have enough to live with dignity, and no more than what I can carry in peace. For every coin beyond that, there is a cost unseen. Less sleep, less laughter, less time for the things that cannot be bought." Ask yourself now, how many hours of your life have you traded for what you do not need? How many days of sunlight have you sold for a little more comfort that brought no comfort at all? This is not judgment, it is awakening. Even Seneca confessed his own weakness. He too struggled with wealth, reputation, desire. He wrote not as a saint, but as a man at war with himself, trying each day to master what had mastered him. He would remind himself, possessions are the outer clothes of fortune. Virtue is the skin of the soul. And so he practiced losing, not to suffer, but to strengthen. He imagined loss before it arrived, so that when fortune turned, it could not wound him deeply. He called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortune. You can practice the same. Close your eyes and imagine losing what you most fear to lose: your job, your status, your savings, even your comfort. Now open your eyes and see you are still here. Your breath still flows. The sun still rises. Life continues, quietly unmoved by your possessions. That is the first taste of freedom. When you realize you could lose everything and remain whole, you begin to live from strength, not fear. Because true wealth is not what you hold in your hands, it's what you hold in your character. A man who depends on money for peace is poor even in abundance, but a man who depends on virtue is rich even in poverty. Think of it this way: if your worth can vanish with a market crash, then it was never truly yours. Your value must live somewhere untouchable, in your integrity, your reason, your compassion. There lies the fortune no thief can steal. Seneca used to spend days without luxury, eating plain food, wearing simple clothes, to remind himself that comfort was a preference, not a need. He said, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, and say to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Can you do the same? Can you step back, even for a weekend, from the race, and see what remains when the noise fades? You may find that your peace was never lost, only buried under the weight of wanting. Remember, wanting less does not mean settling. It means seeing clearly. It means no longer confusing desire with direction. The Stoic still acts, still builds, still dreams, but he does not chase ghosts. He aims not for riches, but for rightness, not for applause, but for alignment with nature and reason. And when he receives money, he uses it well, for generosity, for purpose, for freedom. For wealth without generosity is rot. It decays the soul that clings to it. Do you know why people never feel rich enough? Because they forget what they already have. They think only of what's missing, never of what's present. Gratitude is the philosopher's gold. It multiplies whatever it touches. To see 1 cup of water and feel abundance, that is true prosperity. Seneca often thanked fortune, not because he trusted her, but because gratitude protected him from pride. He knew that every gift of life, even his breath, was borrowed, and so he lived ready to return it at any moment, peacefully, without complaint. Try it now. Name one simple thing that wealth cannot buy, but you already possess. a person you love, a quiet morning, a lesson hard learned, the strength to endure. That, my friend, is wealth. And it grows not by earning, but by noticing. You see, most people look at their lives and count what's missing. The Stoic looks at his life and counts what remains. And he realizes what remains is always enough. Later in this journey, I will share Seneca's words on how to build wealth without losing your soul. But for now, hold this thought. Money is external. Peace is internal. If your peace depends on the external, it will always be fragile. If your peace grows from within, nothing external can destroy it. This truth will test you, because the world will keep shouting, more, and your heart will whisper, enough. You must learn to hear the whisper. And when you do, when you finally stop chasing what you never needed, you will begin to live in a way that wealth cannot improve, because you have already found the richest thing of all, contentment. You see, my friend, contentment is not laziness. It is not giving up on ambition. It is ambition purified, directed inward, not outward. To conquer the self, that is the highest achievement. To master desire, that is the only victory that lasts. Seneca lived surrounded by luxury, yet trained his mind to be poor in desire. That is the paradox of Stoic wealth, to have much yet need little, to touch gold yet remain untainted by its shine. Can you imagine such power? To walk through a marketplace of temptations and remain unmoved, to see the riches of others and feel no envy. To lose what you once clung to and still smile. That is the power you are capable of. Every time you resist the impulse to buy what you don't need, you practice freedom. Every time you measure your worth by your actions instead of your earnings, you build unshakable wealth. The Stoic does not avoid the world. He moves through it awake. He uses what comes, accepts what goes, and thanks life for both. So when the next wave of envy hits, when you see others flaunting success online, remember this: you are seeing only their display, not their peace. And peace cannot be posted. Let your wealth be invisible. Let it show not in what you own, but in how little you need to smile. Now, before we close this part, take another breath. Slowly, feel the air enter you freely. It costs nothing. Feel your heart beating without effort. No payment required. Feel your thoughts steadying. This is your real fortune. Seneca would remind you, no man is poor who can still live as he wishes. And to live as you wish, you must first wish for less. This is the start of Stoic wealth, the art of wanting wisely. When you master that, no loss can break you, and no gain can intoxicate you. That is freedom. If these words have touched you, share them with someone still running in circles. Let them hear that it is possible to live richly without riches. And if you wish to walk deeper into these teachings, subscribe so our next conversation finds you. Tell me in the comments below, what do you wish to stop chasing? For each answer brings another soul closer to peace. Now rest your mind. The world can wait a little while. Your peace cannot. We will continue soon with the lesson Seneca gave on how to hold wealth without being held by it. Until then, be still, be free, and remember, the richest life begins the moment you stop running after it. My friend, now that you have begun to see what wealth truly is, let us walk into the heart of the matter, how to hold fortune without being held by it. This is the test that even the wisest fear, for it is easy to be humble when you have little, but it takes great discipline to stay humble when the world gives you much. Seneca knew this burden well. He was rich beyond measure, estates, servants, influence. He counselled emperors and dined with power. Yet each evening he sat alone in his study and wrote letters to a friend, reminding himself that gold is lighter than virtue. He once confessed, "I am not a wise man, not even close. I am a patient learning from his own disease." And his disease was attachment. So he built his cure, not by renouncing wealth, but by rehearsing its loss. He would imagine his house burning, his fortune taken, his reputation shattered, and then he would ask, "What remains of me?" He discovered something beautiful, that the self built on virtue does not burn, that a mind trained in reason cannot be robbed, that a soul anchored in wisdom floats above fortune's tide. And that, my friend, is what you must learn to build. You live in a world obsessed with building portfolios, but what good is a full portfolio and an empty spirit? What good is a mansion if peace cannot enter its doors? Seneca would tell you, build your inner estate first, strengthen your reason, beautify your character. Let temperance be your walls, let justice be your foundation, let wisdom be your light. Then, if fortune blesses you, your wealth will have purpose, not as decoration, but as instrument. For money, when guided by virtue, becomes service. It can free others, feed others, uplift others. But when guided by vanity, it devours the one who owns it. Look around your age. How many are exhausted not by poverty, but by prosperity misused? How many work endlessly to protect the image of success, forgetting that the image costs more than the truth ever did? There is a quiet tragedy in chasing symbols instead of substance, likes instead of love, luxury instead of life. Seneca would say, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." And today that means he who tries to be everything online is no one within. So choose instead to be rooted. Let your peace come from what cannot vanish, your discipline, your character, your gratitude. When you have those, money becomes a friend, not a master. Let me show you how Seneca trained this friendship. He set aside time each month to live as though he were poor. He ate coarse bread, wore rough clothes, slept on a hard bed. He would whisper to himself, "Is this what I feared?" And when he felt peace in simplicity, he smiled, for he knew that fortune had lost her power over him. Can you imagine trying this in your own life? A week without indulgence, no luxury, no excess, no endless scrolling through things to buy. Just life, raw, unadorned, enough. Would you still feel rich? If the answer is yes, then you are free. If the answer is no, then your work begins. But take heart, freedom grows through practice. You do not conquer desire in a day. You train it as you would a wild horse, gently, patiently, consistently. Each time you resist a needless purchase, each time you choose silence over comparison, each time you give instead of grasp, you are becoming richer in the only way that counts. Seneca once wrote, "If you wish to be rich, do not add to your money, but subtract from your desire." This is not a call to asceticism, it is a call to sanity. Because desire without end is madness. It turns pleasure into poison, comfort into cage. Your task is not to have nothing, but to be owned by nothing. Think of the phone in your hand, a miracle of invention, yet also a master of attention. How often do you reach for it without thinking? How often does it pull you away from the quiet riches of your own mind? Try for one day to command it instead of obeying it. Let it serve you, not summon you. That too is Stoic wealth, sovereignty over your tools. For power without self-control is not power. It is dependence dressed in glamour. You see, Seneca lived in Rome, but his true kingdom was inward. He ruled himself, and so no emperor could rule him completely. You can live the same way. When you build inner order, no outer chaos can dethrone you. Let me ask you something. What would happen if you measured wealth not by accumulation, but by tranquility? Who then would be rich? The one with millions but constant unrest, or the one with enough who sleeps peacefully each night? The answer is obvious, yet forgotten, because society does not measure peace, but the Stoic does. He knows that calm mind is the rarest luxury, and that its price is not money, it is mastery. So practice mastery. Wake each day and ask, what desire commands me today? Then answer, none but virtue. Do your work. Earn what you need. Save, invest, create, but never let the pursuit erase the purpose. You are not here to collect trophies. You are here to live wisely, love deeply, and leave the world better than you found it. Seneca warned, wealth is the slave of the wise, the master of the fool. Decide which you will be, because every decision, what you buy, what you crave, what you fear to lose, reveals who commands whom. To be wise is to walk lightly through abundance, to hold fortune's gifts as you would hold a bird, with open hands, gentle and free. If it stays, you are grateful. If it flies, you remain whole. That is Stoic wealth. Later, we will explore how Seneca used his fortune to serve virtue, how to transform your earnings into instruments of goodness rather than cages of greed. But for now, let this settle in your heart. Freedom is not found in what you gain, but in what you can gladly let go of. If this message resonates, share it. Invite others into this quiet rebellion against endless wanting. Subscribe so you don't lose this space of stillness amid the noise. And write below, what small luxury could you release this week just to remind yourself that you are free? Now, take one slow breath. Let go of the need to prove. Let go of the urge to compare. Let go and feel how light you truly are. We will continue soon with Part 2b, where Seneca reveals how to use wealth as a tool for virtue and how to build a life that money can never corrupt. Until then, stand tall, walk simply, and remember, fortune cannot master the one who has mastered himself. My friend, we have spoken much of how to detach from wealth. Now let us speak of how to use it well. Because Stoicism is not withdrawal from life. It is engagement with mastery. The Stoic does not hide from the world. He walks through it awake. Seneca never said money was shameful. He said our slavery to it was. He believed wealth was like fire, dangerous in the wrong hands, but powerful when controlled. Fire can burn a home or warm it. It can destroy or nourish. The difference lies not in the fire, but in the one who holds it. So too with money. It can corrupt or create. It can feed your ego or feed the hungry. It can buy attention or buy time to serve something greater. What will you let it do in your hands? Seneca himself gave generously. He funded education, supported the poor, paid the debts of friends. And when accused of greed, he replied with quiet humility, I use wealth, but I am not used by it. That is the mark of a Stoic, to use what fortune gives without bowing to it. Today, you live in a time of constant consumption, advertisements whispering, algorithms tempting, the endless voice saying, more, more, more. But imagine if your wealth served purpose, not vanity. If every dollar was an act of reason, not reaction. If your earnings became instruments of virtue, helping others, freeing time, building character. That is Stoic wealth in action. Because the wise man does not let money tell him who he is. He tells money what it must do. Ask yourself quietly, what is my money serving right now? My fear, my image, or my values? You see, the Stoic turns his resources into reflections of his soul. He spends not to escape himself, but to express himself rightly. A gift given wisely is an act of love. A purchase made mindfully is an act of order. And saving, not from fear, but from foresight, is an act of strength. Seneca would tell you, riches are not forbidden, but unruly. They obey only those who have learned to rule themselves. He advised his friends to treat wealth like a wild horse, feed it, train it, but never ride it blind. Because the moment you let wealth guide your direction, it leads you off the path of reason. And you can see it everywhere. People earning more, yet feeling less alive. Working harder, yet sleeping worse. Owning more, yet trusting less. They mistake activity for purpose and abundance for joy. But a Stoic measures success differently. He asks not, how much did I earn today? But, how wisely did I live today? And wisdom is a better investment than any currency on earth, because wisdom appreciates with use, not with hoarding. The more you apply it, the richer you become. Let us imagine for a moment a world where money obeys wisdom. You wake not to chase, but to create. You work not for status, but for contribution. You spend not to impress, but to align with your values. You save not out of fear, but out of freedom, so that you can act on principle, not panic. You give not for recognition, but for joy. This is wealth without corruption. This is fortune transformed into virtue. Seneca would call this living according to nature, meaning in harmony with reason, simplicity, and purpose. Nature does not hoard. The tree does not cling to its fruit. It lets it fall when ripe. The river does not keep its waters still. It lets them flow. Why then should we clutch so tightly what was never meant to stay? Let your wealth flow as life does. Earn it rightly. Use it kindly, release it gracefully, for the one who gives without fear multiplies what he releases, and the one who clings loses even what he has. Seneca said, "He who gives to the needy is the true heir of his fortune," meaning generosity secures what greed destroys. Try this. Next time you receive money, before spending or saving, ask, how can this serve the highest part of me? You may find that a small act of giving brings more joy than any purchase ever could. And if you have little to give, remember time, patience, kindness, forgiveness. These are currencies too, and they enrich both giver and receiver. You see, wealth is not evil. It is neutral, waiting for your direction. And when you align it with virtue, it becomes sacred. But beware, even virtue can be corrupted if done for praise. Give quietly, help secretly. Let goodness be its own reward. That is the discipline that keeps the ego from stealing virtue's light. Now let's turn to another of Seneca's lessons, the art of remaining calm amid abundance. He wrote, "It is not the man who has much who is rich, but the one who is satisfied with little." Notice, satisfaction is the key, not possession. For what use is abundance if it makes you anxious? Better a modest meal with peace than a feast with fear. And yet, the modern world worships the feast. Endless stimulation, endless entertainment, endless consumption. But the Stoic seeks the meal that nourishes, not the one that numbs. He knows the difference between pleasure and fulfillment. Pleasure ends with the moment. Fulfillment endures through meaning, and meaning grows only where virtue lives. So the question is not, how can I make more, but how can I live better? Seneca taught his students to treat each coin as a moral decision, to ask, does this choice honor my reason? Does it strengthen my character? If the answer was no, he let the coin stay. What if you did the same with your spending, your time, your energy, your attention? What if every purchase became a reflection of your principles? Would you live differently? Would your life feel lighter, cleaner, freer? Because that is the essence of Stoic wealth, to live in harmony with what is right, and to let nothing bought or sold disturb your peace. Now, let us speak of the final piece, acceptance. Fortune is fickle. You can earn wisely, save diligently, give generously, and still lose everything tomorrow. Seneca knew this well. He lost friends, influence, and eventually his life, but he never lost his composure, because he had trained himself to hold all things loosely, to see fortune as a guest, not a god. He would say, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." That means live today as if it were complete. Be rich in gratitude. Be wise in action. Be content in being. And when loss comes, and it will, you will stand as Seneca did, calm, clear, unbroken. Because what truly belongs to you cannot be taken. Your integrity, your courage, your peace. This is the secret to Stoic wealth. Not in owning more, but in being less owned. If these words have reminded you of what truly matters, share them. Let someone who's chasing in circles hear them too. Subscribe to stay close to this path, because soon we'll go even deeper, into part 3, where Seneca's wisdom meets your modern world head on. There, we'll explore how to balance ambition and peace, how to pursue success without losing your soul, and how to find unshakable joy, no matter your fortune. But before we go, pause here, take one long, quiet breath. Look around at what you already have. Feel gratitude, not for its quantity, but for its presence. Because this moment, right here, is wealth, pure, silent, infinite. My friend, if you've come this far, you've already begun to see the world differently. You've slowed your chase, you've breathed between your thoughts, and somewhere inside you, a small silence has begun to grow. That silence, that is wealth. It is the space where peace returns. But now you face a harder challenge, to live this wisdom while surrounded by a world that forgets it every day. How can a Stoic walk through modern life? Ambition, business, pressure, performance, and still remain at peace? How can you strive without craving, work without worry, grow without greed? This is what Seneca taught in his final years, that one can live fully engaged in the world, yet inwardly free. He said, "I do not ask you to renounce riches, but to command them." Meaning, be ambitious, but disciplined, seek success, but on your own terms. For the Stoic, ambition is not about victory over others. It is victory over self. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to express your best nature, and that nature is calm, rational, compassionate, and capable. It was never meant to be buried under anxiety or endless proving. Seneca saw ambition as a sacred energy, but one that must be purified. He said, "It is not that we have little time, but that we waste much." He was not warning against action, he was warning against aimless motion. And you, living now, know this truth deeply. You can spend entire days busy, yet feel you've gone nowhere. You can fill every hour with tasks, yet lie awake empty. Because busyness is not progress, only purpose is. So let us ask, what is your purpose? Not what the world expects, not what earns applause, but what your nature quietly calls you to do. Every person has within them a seed, a calling towards something honest and worthy. To find it, you must silence comparison, because comparison is the noise that drowns your own song. You see, the world measures by numbers, followers, income, recognition. But the Stoic measures by alignment. Is my life in harmony with my values? Is my work in service of virtue? Is my mind at peace when I rest? If yes, then you are already rich, no matter the sum. And if not, then no fortune will ever be enough. Seneca once asked, "What is the worth of having everything if you lose yourself in the process?" He saw men rise in fame and fall in peace. He saw power corrupt those who forgot that the true empire is self-mastery. Let's bring this to your time. Today's empire is attention. Everyone fights for it. Everyone spends it. Few guard it. But the Stoic guards attention as sacred ground. For wherever your attention rests, your life grows. If you give it to envy, envy grows. If you give it to virtue, virtue grows. So the question is, where are you planting your life each day? When you open your phone, when you chase validation, when you work until exhaustion, what seed are you watering? Seneca would tell you, water the seed of reason. Feed the root of peace. Grow what lasts. You will be tempted to believe you can balance everything, wealth, status, peace, without sacrifice. But you cannot serve two masters. If you serve the external starves. If you serve the external falls into place naturally. So build your life around what the world cannot steal. Discipline, compassion, courage, wisdom. Those are the real assets of a Stoic life. They yield compound peace, not compound interest. And here is a truth Seneca learned late. Your wealth will one day belong to someone else, but your virtue is yours forever. So do not live as if your legacy will be your possessions. Let it be your character. When you are gone, let others say, "He lived simply, gave generously, and never bowed to greed." That is the richest reputation you can leave behind. You see, the Stoic does not reject success. He simply defines it differently. Success is not applause, but alignment. Not accumulation, but understanding. Not winning, but walking rightly. And when you build from that foundation, you will find that ambition and peace no longer fight within you. They become allies. Because ambition without wisdom burns you out. But ambition guided by virtue builds you up. Seneca advised, "The wise man will not despise riches, but he will control them. He will have them in his hand, not in his heart." Keep wealth in your hand. Let it move, let it serve, let it flow, but never let it rest inside your heart, for there it hardens into pride, and pride is the first poverty. Now, let's speak of the moments when you fail, because you will. Even Seneca stumbled. He admitted often that he preached better than he lived, but he kept returning to the path. That is Stoicism, not perfection, but persistence. Each day you fall a little, and each day you rise wiser. When you overspend, forgive yourself. When you envy, notice it gently. When you crave status, pause and breathe. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to grow in awareness. Every moment of awakening, even painful, adds to your inner fortune. And this practice will make you wealthier than kings. Because while others count coins, you will count moments of peace. While others guard possessions, you will guard your mind. While others fear loss, you will live fearless, because you have built yourself beyond the reach of fortune. Seneca's own end proved it. Condemned to death by the emperor he once served, he met his fate calmly. He told his friends, "Fortune has no weapon against a man who accepts death with peace." That is Stoic wealth at its highest, to lose everything and yet remain rich. But you need not wait for tragedy to learn this. You can live it now, in the small choices of every day, how you spend your time, how you speak, how you respond to what you cannot control. Every moment is a test of your inner economy. Spend wisely. Now, stay with me, because in the final part of this lesson, we will bring all of this together. You will see how to live in the modern world, ambitious, productive, connected, without letting it own your soul, and how to find joy that remains steady, even when fortune turns her face away. Take a slow breath, my friend. The richest part of this journey begins now. My friend, the world around you runs faster every year. Voices shouting for your attention, screens flashing with things to want, things to fear, things to chase. But the Stoic voice, my voice, speaks slower. It whispers in the quiet between all that noise. It says, stop running, stand still. Look at what you already have. You've been taught that success is always forward, always more, always next. But the Stoic teaches that peace is always now. It begins the moment you stop measuring life by gain or loss. You see, fortune moves like the tide. Sometimes it gives, sometimes it takes. You cannot stop the tide, but you can learn to float. Seneca said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. It is not a sentence about poverty, it's about power. Because the fewer things you need to be content, the more free you become. Freedom is not living without money. It is living without dependence. You can be rich and enslaved by fear. You can be poor and walk as a king. What decides the difference is not the number in your account, but the peace in your mind. And this is the paradox the world forgets, that the one who learns to desire less gains everything he truly needs. So how does one live like this, here and now, in the cities, the screens, the systems that reward greed and punish stillness? You begin with awareness. Each time you buy something, ask, am I feeding my peace or my insecurity? Each time you work late, ask, am I building virtue or vanity? Each time you look at another's life and feel envy rise, ask, what am I not seeing in my own blessings? These small questions, these are your armor. They cut through the fog of modern temptation. And slowly, you begin to see what matters again. Seneca's wisdom was never meant for temples or solitude. It was meant for life, for the noise, the mess, the uncertainty. He wrote his letters to men in power, in politics, in commerce. He spoke to people like you, busy, striving, surrounded by excess. He taught them how to walk calmly through chaos, how to remain inwardly untouchable. He said, you ask how much wealth is enough? The answer is enough to be in control of yourself. Enough, a word almost extinct in the modern tongue. But if you can revive it, you will live differently than most. Enough food, enough comfort, enough success, enough to be grateful, enough to rest without guilt. And when you reach enough, you will find something rare, the room to give. Because true abundance begins the moment you stop clinging. Seneca believed generosity was not charity, it was nobility. He said, no man is poor who can give. To give is to prove to yourself that you are not owned by what you have. It is the highest use of fortune, to free yourself and others from fear. So give, not recklessly, not performatively, but with joy. Give where it strengthens, where it heals, where it uplifts. Give without the need for return. In that act, you turn your wealth into wisdom, and wisdom never runs dry. Now, let us speak of peace. You will face moments. The deal falls through, the market turns, the plan collapses, and fear will rise like a wave. In those moments, remember what Seneca wrote. Fortune falls heavy on those she surprises unprepared. Prepare yourself not by building walls of money, but by building walls of character. Discipline is stronger than any economy. Gratitude is safer than any savings. Courage is worth more than gold. Because when the storm comes, Apu, and it always comes, these are the treasures that will not be washed away. And if loss does find you, greet it as a teacher. It will strip you of what is false and reveal what is true. You may lose comfort, but you will find clarity. You may lose luxury, but you will find freedom. Seneca would tell you, what you lose in externals, you gain in essence. And this essence, once found, cannot be taken from you again. That is why the Stoic walks with quiet confidence. He does not need to appear rich. He is rich in self-command, in gratitude, in understanding. He owns his desires, his reactions, his peace. And that, my friend, is ownership enough. Look around your life now. Think of the things you chase, the people you compare yourself to, the goals that never feel finished. Ask yourself, who would I be if I no longer needed to prove my worth? That question is freedom. Because when you stop needing the world's approval, you begin to live on your own terms. When you no longer crave to be seen as rich, you begin to feel rich inside. And from that inner abundance, you act with calm power. You give, you build, you serve, you love, not to gain, but to express. Seneca said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." So make your tale a good one, a life lived with virtue, gratitude, simplicity, courage. Let your work reflect wisdom. Let your wealth serve purpose. Let your time be spent where meaning lives. That is Stoic wealth, not gold, not fame, not things, but clarity. And if the world forgets this truth, you, my friend, must remember it louder. Speak it not with words, but with the way you live. Live calmly in a chaotic age. Give freely in a greedy one. Stand steady when others chase shadows. You will not only find peace, you will become it. Now, before this lesson ends, I ask you to pause and look at your life as it is right now. Think of what you already have, your breath, your strength, your mind, your moments. See them not as small things, but as sacred wealth. Take one deep breath and let gratitude fill you like sunlight. You are already rich beyond measure. Let this truth be your compass. Let it guide your choices tomorrow and the next day. And when the noise of the world returns, remember, you have already heard something deeper. Carry it quietly inside you. That is Seneca's gift to you. That is Stoic wealth. If these words have steadied you, share them with someone who's still chasing. Let the wisdom spread, softly, one heart at a time. Subscribe, my friend, so that we may keep walking this road together, where ancient wisdom meets modern life and peace is learned again. Until next time, live simply, act with purpose, and stay rich in soul.